Change Your Life podcast. Hey, I'm Pastor Charles and my wife, Pastor Maisha. We got an awesome topic for you today, which is walking together. We're going to talk about 5 biblical principles for strong relationships. So as we get into this, guys, hold on to your seat, so to speak, because we're going to have a very real discussion. Let's have a little fun with it. As always, if you guys have questions, you want to put your questions and comments or anything you want to in the comments section. You type them in, hit enter. Hopefully, we get a chance to see them on our side. Some we'll even get a chance to address. So we should always have fun doing that. But let's go ahead and get ready to kick it off. So once again, going back to our topic, which is basically 5 biblical principles for strong relationships. Guys, just to start off, man, I could have used some of this thought process, especially when I was a young man. When I was first going into any relationship, but especially into my relationship with my wife, we all go for what we know. What I meant by that, me being young and stupid in so many ways, you do things wrong and you wonder why things are not working. You're out there, picking girls based on what they look like, so to speak, and you think that's it. You find out that girl, I'm sure ladies feel the same way, may not be the person that you thought they were going to be, and you wonder why everything is jacked up or things are not what you wanted them to be. All of a sudden you come down the road and that relationship is broken, and here you are doing the same thing over and over again, and you keep pointing at the other person as if they're the issue. The problem simply is you run into the same type of folk because that's the people you're looking for. So no wondering why you're having these issues in your relationships, issues, that can't get along, can't talk with each other. But then again, you are picking the same person over and over and over again and wondering, why you keep running into this brick wall. Well, today, let's talk about, like say 5 different things or 5 different principles to help build strong relationships. Or if you are in a relationship like already, like me and my wife are, how do we keep the relationships going? How do we make things better? Because sometimes you may seem like you start wrong, but that don't mean the person is bad. The person may be good, awesome, so to speak, but you guys don't have the tools that you need to move further in the relationship. And so today we'll hit these tools and we'll go from there. So let me bring up the first one. I didn't get it typed in, but I'll just talk about it right now. It's going to start off with love and respect. Now, a lot of times, we think about love and respect. Matter of fact, Pastor Maisha, just call you Maisha. Forgive me saying Pastor on this thing. Maisha, do you see the scripture that we have behind that there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ephesians 5.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about love. I'm just going to intro it, but go on and if we get a chance, I want you guys to really think about what I'm getting ready to say and what I simply mean by this. When we think about love, a lot of us think about it from a physical perspective, or feeling based perspective. The type of love we're talking about today, guys, is a biblically based love. Okay, it's love that's I'm more concerned about your well being. I'm committed to your well being. It's a love based in commitment, not touchy feely. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people have issues with the word love because they think love is based in the touchy feeling, the emotional portion of it. We got to be so careful of that because the truth of the matter of it is, okay, that's how you hear these statements, well, I fell out of love. I fell out of this right here. If you're in a marriage, you really can't fall out of love, or you shouldn't be falling out of love. That simply means your love is based on how you feel. Your feelings, emotions were never meant to lead you. At the same time, because you're allowing them to lead you, and this marriage is not based in commitment, here you are, possibly looking at divorce or, having this big breakup when it shouldn't be there at all. It's something, this is actually a true stat. There are more divorces amongst Christian people than there are people who get married and have the marriage ceremonies and they don't even know each other. And the reason I'm bringing this up simply is because
Arranged marriages.
It's arranged marriages. Thank you. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the arranged marriage is based in commitment. Okay, it's not based in how you feel. Now, my personal thought process about this right here is I believe you should be able to know and get to know somebody, get to see if you guys are equally yoked. But how can an arranged marriage, last longer or have less divorce than a Christian marriage? Simply because a lot of times when we go into marriage, we're basing it on how we feel at the moment, right? And if we're basing things in on how we feel in the moment or how we feel, over the first couple of years, yes, we're like who we've been with. Yes, we get a chance, kind of be in that stage where we're just knowing each other and we feeling each other out and it seems good. But what happens when the hard stuff kicks in?
Well, this is where arranged marriages differ. And this is very important, in my opinion. And that is this: arranged marriages are arranged by values.
Yes.
Okay, so it's much simpler to stay in a situation with a person, even a hard one, with a person who values what you value. They will hold on to the same thing you're wanting to hold on to. And so the situation is not about me against you. It's about how do we keep this thing that both of us really believe is important. A love marriage is very different because the way that we express love nowadays, not biblically, but you know, in the world secularly, I'll say, but the way that we express and understand love is to where it is an emotion, and we may or may not value the same thing at the same time. So it makes it very simple to get in a situation where there's a problem, and now it is a tug of war between you and I.
Right. That's so true. I look at it when we think about this love and respect. The reason respect is here because you can't truly have a deep seated respect for someone. I'm sorry, you can't truly love someone unless you start to develop a deep seated respect for someone.
Yeah.
You know, because when you talk about being committed to someone's well being, like for instance, what's the best way to even give this example? I'm trying. Well, even I'm just going to give the example I was thinking of. It's about when you go out there and playing ball with your brothers. And what I mean by that, you're on the football team. Everybody knows their position. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do, right? And because I'm committed to being my best for my brothers out on that field, we're committed to winning this game together. We all have this mutual respect, for each other. When I say love right now, when I'm not talking about that touchy feely type love. We have that kind of mutual love for each other where we know we're going to all do our jobs and we're going to do everything we can to come out on top. And we put that same type of thought process in our relationship with our significant others, with our spouses, where we have that deep-seated respect for who they are, okay, the woman or the man they are in our lives. We tend to show more love when we do things like that. Once again, love, if we think about love based in, biblical love being based in commitment, not being touchy-feely, we'll move a lot further, especially when we start having our issues within our marriage, right? Because we're going to have days where bad days.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have things come up, that maybe shouldn't come up, but they will come up because, devil's always trying to throw something in. We're always doing something wrong. I know, fellas, I've been like that a lot in my life. And so when I start thinking about that, when we have these things come up, when we truly are committed to each other, even though some of these things may be terrible that we do to each other, we always come back to the baseline where we have a true committed based love to each other. And that will help us get to that next level, whatever that next level may be, but it helps us to move forward and not to quit on each other. I think too many times people end up quitting on each other because they're not truly committed to each other. So when something comes up, and that person doesn't seem like they're really there, or they're really not part of our lives, or really not part of the other spouse's life. And so you find out you're kind of in this relationship that's really was a one-sided relationship. Because if you're there only for the good times, it's not a relationship truly at all. Because when the bad times show up, that means you're not for me. And I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth, isn't it? When you start thinking about it.
Yeah, and there are some relationships that actually do the opposite. So the person is there, holding on to you during the bad times. And in the good times, they're like, deuces, I could do without you.
Yeah.
So it's, sometimes it is literally a person who becomes more clingy and thinks maybe the thought process is, I'm not sure, but maybe the thought process is, I can't do this without you.
Mm.
So they behave as though you're the most important person on the planet while things are hard. And as soon as things get to where they're a steady good, it's like, oh, now it's time for me to relax. I don't need to do anything.
Wow. That's so true. Guys, now we could talk so much about this love and respect portion of it, but we just wanted to touch the tip of it today, and also want to bring the scripture back up because the scripture is so important. Now, this is speaking to a married couple, but I realize we must have this even before we go into the relationship or go into the marriage with each other.
Yes.
In Ephesians 5:33 says, however, each one of you must also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Now, the reason I want to bring this up, because it's saying husbands, okay, each one of you also must love his wife as he loved himself. Okay, so think about the fullness or the gravity of this thought process. As you love yourself, you must love your spouse. right? And if you start really taking that in, the good you're going to do for yourself, the greatness that you have planned for yourself, you also want to have that same greatness, that same good, that same thought process, that same commitment. As you're committed to yourself, you should be committed to your wife. Now, a lot of people fail in this area simply because why? They're not even committed to themselves. If you got a man that's not committed to himself, how can he ever be committed to you? Now, I know we don't look at it that way, but we need to, right? And then, men, when you have this commitment to yourself, you have to have this same commitment, probably then plus some, for your spouse. Okay, now women, you can look at this vice versa, but it speaks very specifically to you too. And the wife must respect her husband. Okay, that also goes both sides. Okay, as the wives respect their husband, husbands also respect your wife. Husband, you don't love yourself if you continually disrespecting yourself. If you continue treating yourself badly, not doing right for you. Okay, you also will probably do that same thing for your wife. Why? Because that's what you have on the inside of you.
Well, and that goes even to, when a person, while they're with the other person, when we get angry and we realize that I'm really upset about this thing, and the other person may think lightly about it, or they might even think more of it than we think of it. The goal here is literally to say, okay, this person is an extension of me.
Right. That's a good way to say it, Maisha. And you always talk about that. You fellas, we got to always take this in. My wife, ladies, also take this in. My husband is an extension of me. I mean, when we came together, we decided to get married. The Lord made us one, right? You're not one physically, but one. But he soul tied us, so to speak. And when he soul tied us, we are one moving forward. Like one in unison. So we're not separated from each other, even by soul. So he's saying, if we're going to move forward and move forward the right way, we're tied together so tightly, okay, that we should never seem separate. So when you look at the scripture, for husbands, each one of you should also love his wife as he loves himself. Means you have to do the exact same thing, or even more so for your wife than you would do for you.
Yes.
Agree?
So, yes. On this next one, we already have a question from Ms. Tina. She says on here, how to communicate productively.
Oh, let's go on and
touch for it.
Well, here's number 2. It says number 2 is communication. This can be hard, because then we're going to tackle it just from one side today. And the side we're going to talk about today is, how do we communicate respectfully? Okay, how do we communicate, especially when things get hard? Because when everything is good, guys, we can always be lovey-dovey towards each other, and everything's working well, and everything's, we want a little something extra from each other. Let's go to be real. We want to be fiscal with each other. It seems that, our communication always works, especially in a good relationship, or in a relationship. Matter of fact, it don't even have to be good. When we want something from each other, I mean, the fact of it is, I think you muted yourself, babe. Okay, that was okay. And so I want to get this over, because sometimes what we'll do, we'll kind of be smoke and mirrors when it comes to our communication. And what I mean by that, when we want something from each other, especially physically, we'll come in with all the right words, we'll say the right things. Why? Because we want the next moment to make sure it happened. But the truth of the matter is, when we communicating, guys, we're gonna have issues that come up while we're dealing with each other. We're gonna have things that we don't agree with. Matter of fact, sometimes relationships, if it's not working out too well, I mean, our communication usually is sucks so bad when we in those type of relationships that's why we end up breaking up. But effective communication is crucial, guys. It's crucial to having a strong relationship. And we have to understand that. It's in Proverbs. I'm not sure, Maisha, if you put the verse there yet, but it's in Proverbs chapter 18. I think it's verse 21. I'll get it up. Don't worry about it.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Okay. Proverbs 18, chapter 21. And this verse to me makes it so clear. It says the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And so what that simply means, you got to be so careful, because out of your mouth can become good and bad things. Matter of fact, out of your mouth, it is your tongue is so powerful. A lot of people miss this portion, but spiritually, scripturally, your tongue is so powerful. It has the ability to speak life into situations or death into situations. And the last portion is, the person who understands this will eat its fruit. Now, we think about that always from a positive connotation. What that simply means is, when you say the good things will happen in your life. But you got to be so careful, because when you say the bad things also come from this too. And we got to be so careful that we're not damning our relationships or speaking the wrong things into our relationships, speaking the wrong things to our spouses and other people that we were in relationships with. I'm bringing this up because the tongue and its power, how we communicate, I mean, is everything. Me and my wife, as a matter of fact, before she even became my wife, man, sometimes we look back, we don't even know how we made it because we used to tear each other down based on the things we said. And we need to be transparent, right, concerning that. And I don't even like to bring it up. Well, I think about the young 19-year-old knucklehead I was, and me and Mike the same age, and so how sometimes we would talk to each other and how we would have all these fights and these bad moments simply based on, or it started based on what we were saying to each other. A little pride come in. We didn't call it pride at the time. We get angry over this, or somebody say something we didn't like, or we have a thought come up. Then all of a sudden, man, we going at it. I'm calling all kind of names and saying all kind of things. And this supposed to be your girl, and it was something because my dad also kind of helped me with it. Like, why would you say those things about somebody you care for? Well, she said this about me, and that was all I needed, right? And the truth of the matter is, it wasn't even like she always started. Sometimes it was just our thought process. We got to be
So doesn't that really come from, a lot of that came from background, right? So what you were hearing people say to their spouses and what I was hearing people say to their spouses. So a lot of that came from upbringing.
right.
How did our parents treat their spouses? What did they say back and forth? And so a lot of what people go through even still now is repeating the past, repeating what they learned from what they saw, what they experienced. And that's, the marriage that they saw, the marriage that they were a part of, as far as being in their household, or maybe, outside of the household, being in, other families' homes or whatever. It does come down to, a lot of it comes down to learned behavior. So in this, can we learn how to communicate in an effective way, a respectful way? Yes, we can.
It's something I tend to look at the things that how I learned them, where I got it from, things of that nature. I don't tend to look at that as so much as how I utilize them in my own life. I realize I may have grabbed some things from different areas in my life, but now it's time for me to be responsible. When I say from what's coming out of me.
Yes, in your 40s, but in your 20s,
I
coming out.
yeah, because one thing a lot of people go through is suffering from generational behavior.
Yes.
So that's behavior, especially negative behavior that's passed down from generation to generation, and you're wondering why you're struggling the same way that you may have seen the people who before you struggle in the same way. It's really because it's a learned behavior that you've learned, and it's been passed down generation to generation. But somebody needs to step in and stop it.
Right.
And so that's what Maisha is getting at right now. We can't continue to tear each other down. Maybe we've heard that before, in our lives, and from people come from before us. At the same time, you know what? We have to figure out how to be our own man. We have to figure out how to be our own woman. And with that, what I'm simply saying there is that we have to become accountable and responsible for our own actions. Because the truth of the matter is tearing up our relationship.
Right. It's messing up my relationship with this other person.
There you go.
I'm not her. He's not him.
There you go.
Why am I bringing their stuff into my relationship? That's something that literally has to come up continuously when we start going through these, these spats back and forth. Wait, hold on. I'm not the other person, and you're not the other person. So really, how do I want this to work out for me? Because let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, the relationship you're in, hopefully you get real selfish with it and you start to really think, what do I want in this? Because guess what? How I benefit is benefiting me and my spouse, me and my partner, me and my significant other. Because if I win, it means that she won. If I win, it means that he won. So it's a win-win. It's never going to be any less than that. It can't be if I win, it's because he had to lose. It can't be if he wins, it's because I had to lose. It is literally, something that your uncle said I really love. We come together and we say what we're going to say.
Uncle Sammy, yep.
Yeah, Uncle Sammy said it.
Yep.
He said, you know what? I say my piece and Vera says her piece. And then we just move on. And the thing about it is, I loved it when he said it, and he was very calm and beautiful, beautiful man. what he was saying is, I hear Vera, which was his wife. I hear her. I'm asking her to hear me. We both understand that we may have differences of opinion. That's fine. But I do get heard and
Right.
she gets heard. That's really what, let's be honest, that's really what a lot of us just want, just to be heard. And yeah, we're going to move on anyway because I prefer the person over the problem. So I'm going to still choose you, Charles, even though I don't like this thing. You know that I'm willing to compromise here. I want it better next time. However, this time I'm willing to let this be bygones. Like, okay, so we'll just go on. And then we'll work on how do we do this next time. I'm willing for that to be a thing for us. That's what I believe Uncle Sammy was telling us because we've seen him work out certain things with Aunt Vera.
Right.
You know, and it was just that. We'll just work it out different, better next time.
That's so true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
I want to guys, because we getting a little long. Let's go on and move to the next, which is forgive and extend grace. So forgive and extend grace. This
So
this is something that we have to talk about because when you're hoping, excuse me, guys, when you're hoping to keep a relationship going, you have to learn how to forgive. There's no other way to say it. Okay, forgiveness is paramount in any relationship that's going to be long standing. You know, there's going to be because you're going to have it because there's going to be things you need to forgive in your relationship on both sides. You know, I love this verse here in Colossians chapter 3:13. It says, bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. Now, forgiveness and reconciliation are two different things, but I should have put when it says forgiveness, extend grace. Really, what I should have put there is forgive and learn how to reconcile, especially if you're in a marriage. Now, some things people will do to you in life, you have to forgive because the Lord commands forgiveness, but the Lord does not command reconciliation. Okay, and we have to discuss both real quick. Okay, forgiveness. The reason you must forgive is because God told you to forgive, even if it's the worst thing in the world. And we as Christians, we have chosen to allow God to lead us, and the Lord commands this from us. So that's something we have to do. Okay, and once again, it could be the worst thing done against us in the world or the worst thing done against our family. We still have to forgive. Now, the other side of it is reconciliation. Okay, you do not have to reconcile with everybody. And now this is the hard portion of it. God would have us to try to reconcile with people, but some people don't want to reconcile with you. With what I simply mean by that, some people don't want to change their behavior towards you. Some people may have done a certain thing towards you and you can't go back. You don't have to keep letting somebody beat you in the head. Keep letting somebody rob your house. You have to keep letting people break your heart over and over and over. And you think that's part of forgiveness. No, we forgive because that allows us to be free. Okay, regardless of whether that person asks for forgiveness or not. But reconciliation is something that we don't have to have because you don't have to let people continue to break you down. You don't have to let people continue to hurt or harm you. You don't have to let people continue to talk about you or treat you indifferent. No, you do not have to do that.
No, forgiveness is literally allowing the person to be debt free concerning you. So yes, they did owe you more than what they gave you as far as respectability, concern. It might have been that they rejected you or excluded you, whatever it may have been. You deserve more, and you should have gotten it from them. Yes. However, now it's time for you to take your power and say, guess what? I'm going to go ahead and forgive the debt. You no longer owe me anything. I'm going to go ahead and reconcile this with myself first before I even consider reconciling with you, meaning I'm going to get back balanced before I realize whether or not this is good for me to get balanced with you. Before I realize that part, I need to realize within me, I need to allow myself to get to the place where I am calm. I am able to forgive myself for the vulnerability that I just exposed myself, being vulnerable to this person who totally took advantage or did something that was totally out of pocket for me. And then once I get to that place and I say, okay, do I want to engage with this person again? Do I trust that they believe enough about me and my value that they will not treat me that way again or worse? Right. And if I cannot trust that, I mean, and you've said it many times, trust is earned. So if I myself cannot find trust in their behavior, well, then no, I'm not going to reconcile this.
Correct.
I do forgive it. They no longer owe me what I deserve to have. I give that to myself, but I do not re-engage with this person. They're not safe.
And we have to understand that, family. We have to understand that. Sometimes in a marriage, okay, we may go too far. And that's unfortunate, but we may step out biblically, do the wrong thing within our marriage. And the Lord, because we've done a certain thing, which is adultery, he'll allow, he say, I allowed the breaking marriage because the covenant has been broken that you made with one another. But in general, most times, even when adultery takes place, a marriage there can be forgiveness given in a marriage, and there also be reconciliation. But there has to be two people still willing to go after it, two people still willing to be in a relationship. But for everything else, reconciliation, as far as a marriage is concerned, is a must. Is a must. As a matter of fact, if you do not say you're not married and you do not reconcile, that's how you break up, because you couldn't reconcile your differences. So that's something that I want to make sure you guys understand. It's because we cannot reconcile is when couples usually break up. So within the marriage, though, there's no excuse really not for reconciling, unless you once again kind of break that cardinal rule concerning adultery. Now, once again, if you're getting beaten in the head, or something's going really wrong where you can't live there, that's still somebody that's not for you. I'm going to tell you right now, the Lord never intended for you, okay, as somebody's spouse or significant other, for you to continue to live this battered life. It may be time for you to separate and figure something else out if that's going on, because nobody wants you to stay in a home, okay, where it's not healthy for you. Okay, and I want to make sure I say that right away, because too many people feel, especially in marriages, they feel I'm trapped. Well, there is no sexual immorality going on within the marriage, but my spouse is beating me down. No. Don't you ever believe you have to stay there. I'm gonna say that right now, loud and clear. That's not the place for you. Okay?
Right.
And I want to make sure you guys understand that. Hopefully you can, maybe some in the future can be worked out, but there needs to be some, prayer and some practical steps, counseling, class, train, whatever it needs to be.
Separation first. If it's physical, separation.
I want to make sure we say that, because, like I said, we are domestic violence counselors and teachers. So we do understand that, there can be some dangerous situations. And sometimes, women and men have stayed too long in a relationship. And unfortunately, terrible things have taken place in a place they should have not even been in at that point in their relationship. So that's just a thought process as we move forward. Now, what Maisha started to talk about was creating healthy boundaries. And that's really our number 4 thing right here. Now, the reason it's so important that we create healthy boundaries for yourself, a lot of people think you create boundaries for other people. No, you create healthy boundaries for yourself. And the reason you create healthy boundaries for yourself is because you need to know when it's time for you possibly to go.
Yes.
Stop waiting for other people. Stop waiting for other folks to leave. Sometimes you need to leave, and you say, well, I don't have nothing. Sometimes you just need to go, because we've also seen that. Yeah, go on. Go on.
So I look at healthy boundaries very similar to this. If you've ever been or seen anybody that is going deep sea fishing or get on a boat. We were just in Italy this past summer, and we had to take a ferry boat from one part from the mainland over to Venice, right?
Right.
And so when we were on the boat, if there's anybody there that cannot swim, they need to take it upon themselves to use the option to get on that life vest. That's right. The rest of us don't really think about it, because it's like, it's just a few, meters or whatever. Well, we can figure it out. But if you know for certain you are not a person who can deal with any type of water, going under the water or anything, it is your responsibility to look at yourself and know that you need this help. Go get the help, put it on. So the boundary is literally something that's going to keep you buoyant in the future. There's a problem that's going to come up. Look, how do you work best with this problem, with creating safety for yourself? Because it's not about the other people. They're fine. You need to know about where your weaknesses, where your shortcomings, where your vulnerabilities are, and you need to protect yourself there. Nobody needs to be able to come in and decide that for you. That is you. You are literally, and I love saying this because it is so true, you are literally God's gift to this earth. So what does that mean? Does it mean that you can be treated trivially? No, not according to God's word. You are not to ever be treated trivially, not by anyone else, and especially not by you. Christ did not die in order for us to have to live a life where we are the underdog and someone else is above us, because we are the head and not the tail.
Amen.
Right? So think about those things. And the boundary is literally for your safety. And it is your responsibility, even according to God's word, to know where you need to get that safety net. You need to have it around you. And you're the one that needs to place it around you.
I look at this scripture. I think it's a great one concerning boundaries. It's Proverbs 4, verse 23. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Now, that simply means you are responsible for guarding your heart.
Right.
Okay, what you allow to come in it, what you allow to flow out of it. Now, the reason I also speak to this right here, because if you're in charge of you guarding yourself, you got to remember your actions flow from your heart, right? So what you allow to go into your heart is paramount, meaning you need to weigh it. Okay, and so certain things that are happening in your life, you don't need to be part of who you that do not need to be part of who you are. Change it.
Yes.
Change it.
Yeah.
So, when you're setting boundaries, not for others to cross, it's not the old school thing, the draw, the Elmer Fudd, or Bugs Bunny, you draw the line in the sand and you step past it. That's not the kind of boundary we're talking about.
No.
Your boundary is this: you are drawing that line in the sand for you.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, what's too much for you? What you can take, what you can't take.
Right.
What you're willing to deal with, what you don't want to deal with.
Exactly.
You have to draw that line for you. So when we talk about boundaries, we talk about the boundaries you make for yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't be in your relationship, because this is terrible in relationship, but do not be in your relationship talking about, well, if you do this, if you do that, now you may warn somebody, hey, that's too far. That's crossing the boundary. That's crossing my boundary. Okay, that I'm not willing to allow to take place. Now, there's nothing wrong with you saying this right here, but don't sit there and challenge people, especially in times of anger. No, the boundary should have already been put in place.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you can't ever put your hands on me. You can't ever do that. That's not part of any relationship I'm ever allowed to be in. You can't do this. You can't talk to me this way. If that, once the boundary is laid out, and so you can make the boundary known. There's nothing wrong with that. But remember, you are the one responsible for holding the line. Meaning, if that boundary is crossed and it's time for you to have to move on, then it's time for you to move on.
You got to do it.
Okay? Because
that's your responsibility. Yeah.
And if you're in a strong relationship, guys, your partner is going to know what that boundary is and going to do everything they can not to break it.
Yep.
Because they love you.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where that love, once again, I'm committed to your well-being. So if somebody's committed to your well-being and they know you have a boundary that's in place, they're going to do everything not to cross that boundary. Why? Because they're committed to your well-being. That's why when I talk about that commitment-based love, it's so important. Commitment-based love, say, I'm committed to being my best for you. But if I want it to be so great for you that I'm going to do everything in my power to be the man or be the woman I'm supposed to be in this relationship. That's what commitment-based love is. Touchy-feeling love is based on how you're feeling, your feelings and emotions, how you feel in the moment. That's why we got to get past things like that. I've been so blessed, when we came to understand Christ and understand the Word of God more, that we came to a place where we said, you know what? We realized that our love has to be based in commitment for this marriage actually to work. Because guess what? Me seeing my wife, or me doing this, 1,000 times with my wife, it's not new to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When I come in, it got to a time where my girlfriend, I was living with her at the time, but she was no longer company. Imagine now when you get married, that honeymoon phase is over. You don't always be happy just to come in, and say, well, where you get that giddy feeling when you come in the house to see your wife or your new girlfriend. That portion of it is gone. Mm-hmm. Now you have to learn how to be friends, how to be more whole with each other, how to be more real with each other. You're not hiding the dirty, nasty things no more, because after so long you realize, oh man, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know that truth about it. Why didn't you tell me that before? But we think about things like that, but they're so real. They're so real, and they're happening in our relationships, and we have to realize, now I'm committed to you. Because I'm committed to you, I'm going to do the best for you. And I'm not going to ignore the boundaries that keep you safe. Because the boundaries you're talking about, when we create boundaries, rather, we're doing that because these are about to keep us safe in our relationship, keep us safe, with who we are. And we have to understand that. Fair enough. Mike, did you want to touch on anything more before I bring the last thing here?
No.
We're good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, family, this last thing I got, this is going to be hard sometime, but I shouldn't say it could be hard sometime, because the truth of the matter is most of us do it when we first meet each other. And forgive me, I left something off here. This is our fifth thing. This is our fifth thing right here. And let me get that right. So the fifth and last thing is selflessness and service to each other. When we first come into a relationship, guys, when we first come into that relationship, usually any relationship we're in, we try to do our best for one another. And that's something, because we're trying to do our best. In fact, the problem is we're trying to do our best so much we're putting on a show. Yeah, I know. You got to give me a little head nod on, babe. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We're putting on a show for each other. Why? Because we try to show our best, show that best side of us, so to speak. This is what I do. We're opening up doors. I'm just giving little small examples. We're trying to be so, so respectful and so this and this and that. But we're showing we're showing selflessness, but we don't really have it deep rooted in us. We're showing selflessness with the thought process, which is to solely impress.
Mm-hmm.
If we're trying to show selflessness just to impress, the problem happens when we don't feel we need to impress the person no more. Then that selflessness and service goes away. The truth of the matter of it is, when we're in a true relationship with each other, especially husbands and wives, okay, we show selflessness or we serve each other because that keeps something on the inside of us telling us that we should push forward and that we should do our best for our significant other. If we were in a marriage and we always try to do our best for each other, we would always serve each other through the entire marriage. There's no way not to serve each other when we're trying to do our best. And selflessness, right here in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, it says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of the other. So when we think about our spouse, okay, come on now. When you look at this right here, just this specific verse, that simply means we must put our spouse before us. If you have two people in a relationship, both trying to put the other one before themselves, you can't miss. You can't miss. I don't know how you can. I mean, it's just because even if you fall short, because the effort's there. Come on now, that's what I mean. If we could stay here all day, every day, we probably wouldn't have too many problems. I'm just even when I speak to my wife, who definitely, to me, she always puts me first in our relationship. She's always thinking, "How can I help you, babe? How can I do this for you?" I see it with her all the time. I'm actually the one that has to work on this, because what I tend to do is, I whatever it is on the inside of me, which I'm working through, I tend to always think, how can I make things better? But I don't always tend to put her first, right? And it's a different thought process, it's a different mindset, but it's a mindset that helps us to be better when we can truly gravitate to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I do see it out of my wife more so than I even see it out of me. But it's helping me also to want to serve better. So when I'm going away, I travel a lot, right? So me traveling a lot when I'm away, hey man, what can I do to help my wife here? How can it be a little better? But there's also instances, where I'm thinking about, like, just something happened this past week. One of my children made me a little upset about something that they did, and I'm sitting there and I want to put them on punishment for something that they. I can only be talking about one because she's only one. He's underage. But I'm sitting here. I'm like, baby, we got to put this person on punishment. And she's like, do you know how much that's going to cost me? How much work that I'm going to have to go through if I take this away and take this away? And I said, no, I wasn't thinking about that at all. As a matter of fact, first I was just mad about it. Like, she can't do this no more. I'm done with it. But then I didn't think about the impact that I was going to have on my wife. So what happened was I wasn't putting her first. Or rather, I didn't have her best interest in mind when I was doing something else. See, most of the time what I'm saying is I wouldn't try to do nothing directly negative to her, but I wasn't thinking about how it's going to affect her.
Yeah.
So the beauty in with my wife, she thinks more holistically than I do about situations, and it's just the way it's worked out. I think our minds are wired that way, and because she thinks more holistically, she sees things, how they affect more things than just one thing. Me, most time I'll think of what I want done, and that's it.
So true.
But we put this out there for a reason, right? Because a lot of families are like this.
Yeah.
In fact, we come into counseling wise, we see a lot more people that's kind of like me, but way worse. When I say way worse, they only think of themselves, right? It wasn't even that I was thinking of myself. Matter of fact, I was thinking about, correcting one of my kids' behaviors, what I was just talking about. But I didn't think how the way I was going to correct was going to affect my wife. So that's me growing, because the first thing I've gotten through, the second thing I've worked through, but now I'm on the next level of growth in here in this area. Looking at things more holistically, and how is that going to negatively affect the people that I love, especially my wife.
Okay, so I want to add something there too, because the part that was communicated, so that goes back to the second step, communication. The part that was communicated was, I want this done. I want this done this way. I want this done now.
Correct.
So then I'm like, okay, but what I'm not doing is going to do that because this is going to affect me this way. It's going to hurt this, and it's going to entail this. And you're like, okay, well, I didn't think of that. So the beautiful thing about the whole situation was...
Is it too much to bring up? You can say it online if it's not. Just say no, don't bring it. But
no. I mean, it's
because I think the example is good, because for people,
I think it's a lot of people dealing with it actually now, and that is, take her cell phone away. Take
that was my action. She didn't do something I asked her to do. Was doing something that I think was failing area. So my thought process, you know what, that cell phone bothers her more than anything. Meaning that if you take it away, she sees it straighten up faster and then do things like we want to. So my first thought process was take her cell phone away.
Right. And because you're traveling, it's like, well, I can't do it, so you got to do it. And I'm like, well, this makes it harder for me because you are traveling. When you take away the cell phone, which a lot of dads want to do, I get, the first thing is take away that cell phone. Okay, take away the cell phone. But me, the part I play as in this family is that I'm the one that takes and picks up. I'm the one that is communicating with the school on a daily basis throughout the school day. I'm the one that anything fails, I'm the one that has to find the kid. Let's go backwards. A year ago, we were just talking about this yesterday. There was an active shooter on the campus of her school. I was communicating with her via her cell phone. Right. So you take this thing away from me now, and I'm the only one here. I got all these things in the fire, all these irons in the fire, and I can communicate with her and change in a moment's notice because I can communicate with her. You take that away, I can't change anything. Anything changes on that side, I'm in a mess. I'm messing up with other kids. This messes up my work day. Everything goes awry. And you're like, yeah, just take it away. I'm like, I can't do that. But then when you heard me, this is the part of communication. When you heard what I said, it was totally different. Now, if you were to take this 20 years ago, you still wouldn't have heard what I said. It still would have been problematic because I'm not doing what you want me to do when you want me to do it the way you want me to do it. Right. So has there been growth? Yes, absolutely. This is something that I want to also let our audience know. That just because it's not happening this moment doesn't mean that it never will.
Right.
And sometimes if you're going back and forth in a relationship, and Charles and I have been through counseling several times. So what that means is, the reason why I'm bringing that up is simply this. Sometimes you need help helping yourself in this relationship. Sometimes you do need to go to someone else who can hear both sides clearly because they're not in it. Then they can help you to become more amicable towards each other and really get to where you are together, not just physically, but emotionally and communicating. So verbally, you're able to get to each other versus at each other. And that was the past. And now this is getting better now. So hopefully you don't make a permanent decision based on this temporary problem that you're in. Meaning if you can figure a way out to get to another third party, maybe, and because the communication isn't good, or you're not making healthy boundaries for yourself and being able to keep those up, whatever it may be, offering grace, reconciling, or just forgiveness, period, go to a third party. I hope that you make it to a third party. If that is something you've done and you choose otherwise, remember that you will also go through the steps of grieving the loss of a relationship. So this relationship is like a person. It's a person. So this marriage is like a person. And so divorce is final. In a sense, it's final. It's like a death of a relationship, which is why we do our best to avoid that. But if, again, there's physical interaction that is negative, you got to get out of there anyway. So it's better that you save your person than trying to connect and be with someone who hasn't mastered their selves in that way yet.
Well, family, that's all we have for you guys today, man. I thank you guys for tuning in and hanging in there with us. These five, I think these five principles are real. You know, if you guys can master these five principles, I think your relationship, I think, will be a lot better or a lot stronger, I should say. And it's something to always work on. You know, when I look at even me and my wife, we work on things all the time because we have not mastered these five principles. We actively use them, but we have not mastered them. And so I want to make sure that's clear. You know, we could talk to you guys about this today, but we still have our own things that we always have to work through. I think any relationship, it only becomes stronger when you put the tools in place to help you become stronger in the relationship, but you have to work at it. You don't ever think that you do not have to work at having a strong relationship. If you're of that thought process, you are badly mistaken, and unfortunately, you are probably in the place where your relationship could fail simply because you refuse to work at it.
Yeah.
So, family, that's all we have for you guys.
You can't set your marriage and forget it. You can't set it and forget it.
It doesn't work that way.
We grow with it.
We are people. We change. You know, as we change and we grow and we develop. We think of different things. We do different things. You know, and we have to figure out what we need to do to make sure we keep ourselves strong in our relationships. Fair enough?
Indeed.
Take care, family. Have a great day, everybody. Bye now.